So I'm delighted and honored to be able to introduce our president, Anna Marie Cauce. Dr. Cauce emigrated from Cuba to our country when she was 3 years old at the time of the Cuban Revolution. She then worked her way northward over the years and graduated from Yale University and got her PhD there in clinical and community psychology. As stated in her bio in the bulletin, she's been on the faculty of the UW since 1986. While at the UW, she's served in multiple leadership roles, received a number of honors as well. One of those was the head of the American Ethnic Studies program. She's also been a strong advocate for women and underrepresented minorities to be able to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Dr. Cauce also served as a provost and executive vice president. Then in March of 2015, she was appointed as the interim president of the university. And then the Board of Regents confirmed her as the permanent president in October of 2015. One thing that has impressed me about her is that she's been championing access to higher education throughout her entire career. This has included more recently establishing the Husky Promise program. That's a program that provides full tuition to people, underrepresented people who otherwise would not be able to afford to go to the U. In 2015, Dr. Cauce also announced the formation of the Global Innovation Exchange, or GIX. It's a partnership between University of Washington and Tsinghua University in Beijing, China. It's centered now here in Bellevue and is supported by Microsoft as well. It has a globally focused curriculum that's available nowhere else. Also, since arriving in Washington, Dr. Cauce has been a full-blown Washingtonian, hiking and spending a lot of time in the outdoors. Let's give her a Rotary welcome.
Thank you so much, Ross. And you know, this is my first one in person, and it really actually feels great. You know, we are in person at the university. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And, you know, I believe in, you know, I do some meetings on Zoom. They're important too, but it's nice to be in person. And for those of you that are alumni, I know there's a few of you out there, parents or grandparents of students, if you've received care at one of our hospitals or clinics, if you root for the Huskies, and please keep rooting for the Huskies. The student athletes really need you. This is when you show, are you loyal or not? Or if you're simply residents or taxpayers, the University of Washington is your university. I like to think of it as the university for Washington, and we're really grateful for your support, and we think of you as part of our great Husky family. So, you know, please, again, you know, you don't have to have gone there to have gotten something from the university and to profit from it being in this area, and we consider you a Husky too. We are committed to the people and communities of King County, and in fact to all of Washington State, and to ensuring educational and economic opportunity for all our state students, including many from right here in this community. Between our 3 campuses, and I was just meeting with our Tacoma chancellor right before this, we serve more than 41,000 undergraduates. So we are serving more than 41,000 undergraduates, and in fact, more than 60,000 students if you include our master's and doctoral programs. And you know, one thing that you may be surprised to learn, because sometimes the rumors are otherwise, is in fact, over 60% of Washington State applicants who apply to our undergraduate, to one of our undergraduate degrees, gets in. So more than half of the students who apply, more than 60%, actually are accepted. Right now, we have more than 14,000 undergraduates from King County. So, you know, there we go, King County, including 1,200 plus that are Bellevue College transfer students. Bellevue College sends more transfer students to the University of Washington than any other community and technical college, and they do very well at the University of Washington. Each year, we award nearly 6,000 graduate and professional degrees, and currently, we enroll almost 5,000 graduate and professional students from King County. So again, a lot of students from right here. And these students go on to be engineers, attorneys, doctors, and entrepreneurs, and most of them stay right here, expanding our middle class and making our entire community more prosperous, including leaders in the Rotary, like Adam Pinsky, who's putting his Foster School of Business degree to work right here in Western Washington. So there you go. And for all our students, but especially those from families of more modest means, a UW degree is a pathway to economic security, social mobility, and opportunities to discover and explore their passions and to reach their full potential. An average four-year degree holder earns between $500,000 and $1 million more than high school graduates over their lifetime. So a college degree does pay off. And the UW particularly excels in being one of those colleges or universities where you get more than you put in, where you get high in what sometimes is called bang for buck. The CNBC ranking of colleges that pay off the most ranked UW Seattle campus and UW Bothell number 1 and number 2 in the country, respectively. And a recent study by Smart Asset found that UW Bothell graduates' average starting salary is $62,300, second only to UW Seattle campus. So these are students that are graduating and going on to get good jobs. And that's good because that puts more taxes into the economy, and it's good for them, but it's also good for all of us. And one thing that's important too is that the jobs that they hold are more recession-proof, so that the kinds of jobs that college graduates hold are less apt to go away when we have a recession. And as we've seen these last couple of years, and hopefully we won't have to see this again, but they're also more pandemic-proof. They're more apt to be jobs that you can do online and that don't go away during a pandemic. And one thing that's really important to think as we look towards the future is that what we are seeing is that more and more middle-class jobs will require some kind of post-high school credential, whether a four-year degree or a credential from a community or technical college. And that's partly because you know this as well as anybody else. Research and innovation just keeps growing in Washington, in part, and we benefit from that at the university, but we are part of making sure that that happens. In fact, UW's economic impact on the state is over $15 billion annually. So we are part of what makes the state economy so strong. And we want Washington students to reap the benefit of that economic growth and be able to participate in that wonderful innovation economy that we have here in Washington. And, one thing that's really important to point out, because, people keep on talking about, we need a technical four-year college, all of that. Well, I want you to know that 41% of UW undergrads are pursuing a STEM major. We could call ourselves a technical college if we wanted to. 41% of our students are pursuing a STEM major. And we're going to the legislature this year because we want to keep on growing that. We have lots of students who want to major in STEM, and we want to make sure that they have good programs they can go to. Thanks to public investment, we're working to expand the capacity of high-demand STEM majors like computer science, engineering, and human-computer interaction. So we have, in fact, more students. Even with 41% of our graduates doing STEM majors, we have even more students who want to do that than we have capacity. So we're working with the state to grow that. For our state and for the world to thrive, we can't leave people on the sidelines. We really need to create access to excellence. And that's our core mission, is to make sure no question we're excellent, but we're not going around pounding our chest about how many students apply that we can't. Obviously there are students who apply that don't get in. I take no pleasure in that whatsoever. Part of why we grew our campuses in Bothell and Tacoma is to be able to serve more students. And we take no pleasure in not being able to take the great students that get in. But what we want to make sure, and I really need all of you to help us do that, is to make sure to get the message out that at the University of Washington, financial need is not a barrier to a student being able to graduate. The Husky Promise, which is something that I was actually very involved in starting before I had this position a little over 10 years ago, covers tuition and fees for qualified students. It enables eligible Washington students who otherwise can't attend college to attend. And since that program began a little over 10 years ago, we've had 40,000 students who have gotten their degrees at the University of Washington without paying 1 penny of tuition. 40,000 students. And we have 10,000 right now that are going to school without paying tuition because of this program. And it's critical that families know that. I know that that you pick up the newspaper, you watch the national news every day, and there's this debt crisis. They talk about how you can't go to college without taking on huge debts. And I know that there are kids from poor families, families of modest means, that are deciding, I don't want to go into debt, so I'm not going to college. And we need to get the message out that you can go to the University of Washington, get a great degree, and do it debt-free. In fact, 60% of our undergraduates leave with zero known debt. 60% with zero known debt. And for those who do graduate with debt, on average, it's about $20,000 to $22,000. Again, I'm not trying to say that, $20,000 of debt is nothing. But for a good college degree, it's about the price of a car. And you will get it back. Again, remember, our students are graduating on average and being able to make $60,000 a year. So, it really is important that, again, that $20,000 in debt compared to $500,000 to $1 million more in lifetime. Again, you read newspaper articles, students graduating with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. We just read one about USC social workers, and that's not what you're seeing at the University of Washington. And thanks to the legislature, I just want to make that clear. Hey, I'm UW Pres, that's what I'm going to talk about. But the UW isn't alone in keeping higher education accessible. Washington is now a national leader in making excellent public higher education more affordable for whatever credential a student wants. The Washington College Grant covers tuition at any 2- or 4-year college for students below the 70% of the median family income, and that's about $64,000 for a family of 4. So families that are of modest means or low income, their children can go to any of our public universities, often tuition free. So, that's a really important message to get out there. And the funding comes from a tax on those businesses and professional services that benefit the most from an educated local workforce. Some of you may know how hard it is to fill some of the positions that we have out there. We need to have students out there getting the degrees that we want. And Microsoft and Amazon were very strong advocates for this tax because they realized it was in their self-interest. Creating opportunities for our Washington students to qualify for high-paying jobs that so many Washington employers are producing is really a critical mission that we take on across all 3 campuses at the University of Washington. Hey, I know that, so close to the Apple Cup, this might be a little dicey to say, but we've even partnered with Wazoo to raise awareness that public higher education in Washington is affordable, achievable, and a worthwhile investment. We did a campaign that we're still doing called Yes, It's Possible, and actually we rolled it out at the Apple Cup a couple of years ago. So, you know, we're willing to partner with anybody to get the message out. And that's important for you to get that message out because, like I say, too many young people, they're reading in the papers, too many parents of young people and saying, you know, sorry, son or daughter, we'd love for you to go to college, but it's just not in the cards. We don't want to sell our house, you know, or we want to buy a house or whatever, and we want to make sure that the message is out. Now, of course, you know, I've been talking a lot about how college education is about getting a good job, and it is, but it's a lot more than that. College education is a lot more than just getting a good job. My dissertation advisor, who turned 100 this year, still alive and doing well, his mentor was W.E.B. Du Bois, who was one of the founders of the NAACP. And he said this to a group of young African-American men, some of the first to go to college, and he said to them, as important as it is to make a living, it's even more important to make a life. And we don't want people to be choosing one over the other. A college degree allows them to do both. Not only do college degree students earn more than others, but they have better health. They need fewer public services, and they're more civically engaged. They volunteer more. They do more for charity. I think of my father as a good example of that. He did have a college degree, but in this country, he worked in factories. His first job in this country was as a janitor. But because he had a college degree, he actually developed a whole program teaching Cuban kids about Cuban culture and history. He had an incredibly meaningful life, even though in this country it didn't translate into a job. And that's important. All the avenues that a college degree, all the ways in which we enjoy life more, going to an art museum and understanding what the painting is all about. So it really is important that we think about that we encourage students to get a college degree because it's about making a living and it's about making a life and giving back to others. It's a virtuous cycle. College graduates are also more likely to vote. And in today's world, educated, active voters are critical to a thriving democracy. And in a world where information and, unfortunately, disinformation is ubiquitous, we need more than ever for members of our community to engage in critical thinking, which is one of those things that our university teaches. And that's one more reason that all Washington students need to see a pathway to college, including students that are first in their families to go to college. Almost a third of incoming freshmen at UW are the first in their families to attend college. And that is really important because the fact that they attend college makes it much more likely that their younger brothers and sisters, it makes it almost for sure that their children will attend college. And producing this kind of educated workforce and educated citizenry is one of the ways in which the UW creates impact. And impact is at the heart of our mission. We want to be, some universities, when you ask them about their mission statement, it's a glossy brochure that's about this big. Well, for me, it's very simple. Our mission, our vision is we want to be the greatest public university in the world as measured by our impact. By impact on our students' prospects, on the communities we serve, on the state's economy, including Bellevue, home of the Global Innovation Exchange, and the Ballmer Building, that is the home of the Global Innovation Exchange. It was conceived in 2015 with support from Microsoft, UW, and Tsinghua University to develop a new paradigm for global higher education. It's a 100,000 square foot building built for innovation right here in the Spring District, and it was custom designed to support students earning a Master's of Science in Technology Innovation. 96% of GIX graduates, and remember, this is a relatively new program, yet 96% were placed in a job within 6 months of graduation. It is a really, truly amazing program. And this fall, we launched a new robotics track in the Masters of Technology Innovation program that combines engineering, law, business, and collaboration with the GIX consortium partners. Recent projects by GIX students include a system for monitoring plastic waste in waterways, which is very, very important, a drone that aids in search and rescue, and ear infection sensing earbuds. So, I mean, these kids, they are so creative. I mean, if you were to meet one of this entering classes, what's fun is we take students in engineering, we take students in arts, we take students in the humanities, and you put them all together, and the things they do are so exciting. We've just hired a new executive director for GIX, and he will start in January. His name is Sean Carr. Please invite him to come speak to you. I'm sure he would love doing that. And he brings a wealth of experience in industry and spurring innovation in that he was, before coming here, he was the executive director of the University of Virginia's Batten Institute for Entrepreneurship. He's been here twice. He's on fire, and he's going to take GIX to the next level. But, you know, GIX is not the only thing that we have going on here in Bellevue. It's very visible. The Ballmer building is, you know, absolutely fabulous. But there's a lot more that we do in partnership with the community. UW-Bothel's Eastside Leadership Institute here in Bellevue offers a leadership MBA. We have a master's in accounting and a BA in business programs for working professionals to advance their careers. And our Continuum College program at UW is in the they have a program, UW in the high schools. And it's really great because sometimes students that aren't sure can do the college work, they can do college work in high school and it transfers right into our programs. And they have a program for students in Sammamish High School and in Bellevue's Big Picture High School. So we are all over in your community here. From our hospitals to our laboratories and research centers, we work in communities across Washington. And I think you really saw that. One of the silver linings for us, particularly in research universities like the University of Washington, was the pandemic really showed how we have impact. All those years of investment in basic research like mRNA platforms, what were we ever going to use them for? You know, all those students saying, I'll never use statistics in my life, all of a sudden flatten the curve, you know? We really were able to take all that basic research and in a very short period of time, remember, about 2 years ago, you know, we barely knew what this, you know, COVID was all about. We didn't understand how it worked, and in a very short period of time, we were able, and the UW was at the lead in tracking the pandemic, which really helped us to understand, you know, where to put our resources in testing. And we partnered to make sure that testing sites were all over the state, not just in Seattle, and in developing a vaccine against the coronavirus. And today, the UW is helping to meet the challenge by helping all who can get vaccinated to get the shots. We are now offering vaccines to 5 to 11-year-olds. We also are leading in terms of treatments. We were one of the first to be using the antibody treatments, and there's a few more treatments that will come on board. I really think that what's going to make us finally feel comfortable with COVID and more like the flu is going to be a combination of the vaccines, which work incredibly effectively, but also having treatments that you can use. It's kind of like with the flu, you have the shot and you have Tamiflu. I think it's going to be the combination of both. UW expertise in public services were really leading the COVID response. For example, there are some people who think that COVID came to the US through Seattle. That's not true. It's just that the Seattle flu study, a partnership between the UW, Fred Hutch, and Seattle Children's, were the first to identify it because they were out there testing people as part of their flu study. And the fact that they caught it as early as they did really helped us mobilize. The UW stood up testing sites, including in underserved neighborhoods where health inequities are the most persistent. The UW Virology Lab, as of today, they've tested more than 3.5 million samples. 3.5 million samples. UW has been out in the community delivering vaccines to over almost 250,000 patients so far. Again, this week starting with kids 5 to 11. And you can really tell how the messaging is. These kids come out and they are proud that they got a vaccine. You know how usually with the flu, I don't want that. They come out and they're proud and they want their picture taken with their vaccine. It is so incredibly cool. And throughout the pandemic, UW Medicine provided life-saving care to COVID patients and literally were saving lives. UW professor Larry Corey, who's co-leader of the COVID-19 prevention trial networks, conducted clinical trials of COVID vaccines, including Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J. So we were very involved in that. And research professor Lisa Jackson led the world's first trial of the Moderna vaccine. So we have been involved in every aspect of it, and I am so proud of the work that UW Hospital and our physicians have done and continue to do under tough circumstances. The fact that we're all here together is thanks to the outstanding work of UW experts, healthcare providers, and researchers. And on our campus, we have our students back. We are so thrilled to do that. And just to let you know, right now, I said we have about 60,000 students. We only have 21 positive cases. We have managed to really, we have no classroom transmission whatsoever. Our students want to be in person, and so they're doing everything right. So we plan to continue to be an in-person environment. And even though, there have been some rough spots in the transition, we are doing really well. And we're so proud of the culture of care and community that's really taking root amongst our students. Again, this is about impact. That's what our message is all about. And I think you've really seen it in the COVID vaccine. I know we have UW supporters with us today, so thank you all. We could not do it without our community partnerships and without you. And I'm just going to go ahead and take questions now. I could talk forever about the UW, as you've seen. Thank you. Oh, no? Oh.
Will you be able to stay?
I can stay a couple minutes. I'm happy to take let me take at least one or two questions.
We actually can't.
Oh, you can't.
We're out
Sorry.
of time. But if you can stay a little bit, that'd be great.
Well, for those
right.
of you that want to know about the next coach, I'm leaving right from this meeting to have a meeting with Ted Lasso. But don't tell anybody. Okay? Don't tell anybody. It's a big secret. All right. Thank you. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
Before you leave, I want to say you said you haven't been to an in-person presentation in 2 years, 1.5 years. I feel like we were the beneficiary of all that energy that built up over the last year and a half. So thank you very much for that. In your honor, we have donated 3/4 of a ton of food in your name to Harvest Against Hunger, which will provide food to fresh produce to local food banks. We also have a Rotary, Bellevue Rotary Inspiration Playground commemorative mug for you. So thank you very much for your presentation here today.